The world doesn't control you with chains anymore. It controls you with choices. Every day, you wake up thinking you're free. Free to decide, free to choose, free to live your own life. But what if I told you that almost every decision you make was already designed by someone else? From what you buy, to what you believe, to what you love, and even what you fear, there are invisible hands shaping every thought, every impulse, every yes, and every no. You think you're choosing, but you're being guided. That's the first and most dangerous trick of all. The world never forces you. It makes you volunteer. Today, we'll uncover the 7 mind games the world quietly plays on you. The games that build empires, move nations, and decide who succeeds and who stays small. You'll see how control works not through domination, but through influence. And when you finally understand these tactics, you'll stop being a pawn and start playing the game on your own terms. Before we begin, remember this. Knowledge like this is dangerous. It can protect you, or it can corrupt you. Use it wisely. Game number 1, the illusion of choice. The first game is the one you never see, because you're too busy choosing. Psychologists call it manufactured consent. Machiavelli would call it the art of gentle control. It means this: if people believe they're choosing freely, they'll never realize they're being controlled. Look around. Everywhere you go, there's a menu. 2 political parties, 3 phone brands, 100 streaming options, 1,000 personalized recommendations. You feel empowered, but in reality, every option leads to the same destination: someone else's profit, someone else's power. It's not real freedom. It's a sandbox designed to make you feel free while keeping you exactly where they want you. Governments use it to keep populations predictable. Corporations use it to keep customers loyal. Social media uses it to keep you scrolling, believing you're exploring, while algorithms quietly decide what you see, what you think, and even what you feel. And here's the twisted brilliance of it. When you get tired of one option, the system gives you another. You switch sides, switch brands, switch opinions, but never leave the system itself. That's how modern control works. Not by taking away your freedom, but by designing it. How they play it. They give you just enough freedom to stop you from rebelling. You're allowed to complain, but not to change. Allowed to express, but not to escape. They let you believe your voice matters, because believing is enough to keep you docile. It's like a chessboard. You can move anywhere you want, as long as you stay on the board. The world doesn't need to control your actions directly. It just needs to control the options you think you have. That's why advertisements never say, "You must buy this." They say, "Choose what fits your lifestyle." They frame the decision as yours. They make obedience look like independence. This is how people are ruled in the 21st century, through the illusion of choice. How to break it? First, question the menu before choosing from it. Ask who benefits if I pick any of these options. If the same few people benefit no matter what you choose, you're not making a decision, you're playing your assigned role. Second, learn the power of the third option. When the world gives you 2 paths, left or right, red or blue, this or that, remember, there's always a third path no one talks about. The path where you create your own game instead of playing theirs. Third, stop mistaking abundance for freedom. Just because there are 100 brands doesn't mean there's diversity. Just because you have 10 social media platforms doesn't mean you have control. Real freedom isn't about how many choices you have. It's about whether you can refuse them all. When you learn to say no to the system's menu, you start designing your own. That's when real power begins.
Because true independence doesn't come from having options. It comes from understanding who designed those options in the first place. The historical playbook. Ancient rulers understood this long before Silicon Valley did. Roman emperors gave the people bread and circuses, free food and entertainment to make them feel satisfied, while the empire tightened its control. Machiavelli wrote that the most effective ruler gives his subjects just enough liberty to believe they are free. Modern politics follows the same script. When one political side fails, the system already has its replacement waiting. Different face, same agenda. The illusion of choice keeps revolutions from ever truly starting. Even in your personal life, this game runs deep. Ever notice how you choose trends you never asked for? How you start using phrases, apps, or clothes everyone suddenly likes? That's not coincidence, that's conditioning. You're part of a test every day. And most people never realize they're lab rats in a global experiment called consumer psychology.
The takeaway. The first step to power is awareness. Because awareness breaks hypnosis. When you start noticing the invisible menus around you, you stop ordering from them. You stop living on autopilot. You stop mistaking manipulation for freedom. That's when the world starts to fear you. Because a person who truly thinks for themselves can't be controlled. If the first game is about controlling your choices, the second is about controlling your reality. The world doesn't just show you what it wants you to see, it teaches you to believe it. And that belief becomes your prison. Mind game number 2, the reality distortion trap. The second mind game is more subtle and far more dangerous than the first. If the first game tricks you into thinking you have freedom, the second game tricks you into thinking you understand reality. You see what the world wants you to see. You hear what it wants you to hear. And you believe what it wants you to believe. From the news you consume, to the social media posts you scroll past, to the conversations you overhear, reality is being filtered, shaped, and presented in a way that influences your thoughts, your fears, and even your hopes. You think you're observing life objectively, but in truth, the world is guiding your perception. Propaganda is the oldest form of this game, but today, it's invisible. It doesn't come as speeches or banners, it comes as subtle choices in wording, imagery, framing, and repetition. You don't notice it because it's everywhere. It's in the headlines you click, the recommendations you follow, and even the jokes you laugh at. Each one reinforces the version of reality that serves someone else's interests. And here's the clever part. When reality is distorted just enough, people don't rebel. They argue, they debate, they share opinions, but always within the boundaries the controllers have set. They feel like participants, but they are pawns. Psychologists call this confirmation bias. We naturally seek information that matches what we already believe. The world exploits this. They feed us fragments, carefully curated to reinforce our existing perspectives. We think we are thinking freely, but in fact, we are being herded. To break free, you must first recognize the distortion. Question the information you receive. Ask who benefits if you believe this version of events. Seek out what is missing, not what is presented. Real power comes from seeing beyond the surface, from noticing the spaces between the words, the gaps between the images, the pauses between the statements.
Even in your personal life, this game is a play. Friends, colleagues, and even family members can unconsciously influence what you perceive as true. Your opinions, your decisions, your emotions, often shaped without your awareness. If you want to be untouchable, you must learn to see the layers. You must learn to question, to research, and to challenge the narrative before accepting it as reality. The world doesn't just teach you facts, it teaches you what to believe about those facts. And belief drives action. Those who control belief control action. Those who control action control outcomes.
and those who control outcomes control the game. The first step to breaking this trap is awareness. Recognize that every story has layers, every headline has intent, and every trend has a reason for existing. Observe the framing, notice the omissions, and question the context. Seek multiple sources and analyze why each source presents its information in the way it does. The second step is detachment. Do not allow your emotions to be hijacked by what the world presents as urgent, scandalous, or desirable. Emotional hijacking is one of the most effective ways to manipulate perception. When you feel outraged, excited, or fearful, pause and analyze. Ask yourself, is this my emotion, or is it designed by someone else to control me? The third step is mental independence. Build your own framework of judgment. Let your decisions be informed by logic, ethics, and long-term strategy rather than immediate narratives. When you create your own map of reality, the world loses its ability to manipulate you. Those who master this game do not live in fear of deception. They see it clearly, they anticipate it, and they use it to their advantage. They understand that reality is not a given. It is something to be interpreted, analyzed, and mastered. When you see the world as it is, instead of what it wants you to see, you gain a level of control that few ever achieve. Remember, this is not paranoia. It is clarity. It is not cynicism. It is intelligence. And intelligence, applied correctly, is power. The first game gave you awareness of the illusion of choice. The second gives you clarity in a world of distorted reality. Together, they lay the foundation for understanding how influence operates on a hidden level. Once you see the traps clearly, you can step off the paths the world has designed for you. You can begin to navigate your own course. The next mind game is even more personal. It targets your emotions, your relationships, and the way you respond to others. The world doesn't just control perception. It manipulates desire, trust, and fear. In the next section, you will discover mind game number 3, emotional hijacking, and how the strongest people in history have learned to rise above it while others remain enslaved by their feelings.
Mind game number 3, emotional hijacking. The third mind game is the most personal and the one that affects every decision you make without you even realizing it. It is called emotional hijacking. Unlike the first 2 games, which manipulate your choices and your perception, this one attacks your emotions directly. It shapes how you feel, and by shaping how you feel, it shapes what you do. Every human being is vulnerable to their emotions. Anger, fear, love, desire, pride. These are not weaknesses. They are part of being alive. But when others understand how to manipulate them, they become tools for control. Emotional hijacking is the silent force that determines whether you act with wisdom or impulse, with clarity or chaos, with power or submission. Consider social media. Every notification, every trending topic, every viral post is designed to evoke a reaction. Outrage is profitable. Anxiety is viral. Desire is exploited. You think you are reacting naturally, but in truth, the reaction has been anticipated and guided. Every like and every share reinforces the patterns that others want you to follow. In personal relationships, emotional hijacking is even more subtle. Gaslighting, guilt-tripping, praise followed by criticism, these techniques make you question your judgment, doubt your feelings, and act according to someone else's design. You are not controlled by force. You are controlled by the currents of emotion you fail to recognize. History is filled with examples. Julius Caesar knew how to use public emotion to secure loyalty and obedience. Napoleon understood that a well-timed display of confidence could intimidate entire armies. Modern leaders, marketers, and influencers use the same principles. They know that when they control emotion, they control action. So how do you defend yourself? The first step is awareness. Recognize when you are being emotionally provoked. Ask yourself, whose agenda benefits from my current emotional state? When you learn to pause, observe, and question your own feelings, you regain control. The second step is detachment.
Detachment does not mean coldness. It means freedom from impulsive reaction. It means observing your emotions as signals, not commands. Anger can inform strategy, but it should never dictate your decisions. Fear can alert you, but it should not trap you. Desire can motivate you, but it should not enslave you. The third step is conscious response. Instead of reacting immediately, choose your action based on reason, ethics, and long-term strategy. The strongest people in history were not those who never felt fear or anger, but those who never allowed these emotions to dictate their actions. They turned emotional hijacking into emotional mastery. Emotional hijacking is not something you can escape entirely, because it is part of being human, but you can rise above it. You can become the person who sees the strings rather than the puppet. You can respond to the world with intention rather than reaction. Those who master this game gain an invisible advantage. They influence others without aggression, negotiate without pressure, and make decisions that seem effortless, while those around them struggle against currents of fear, pride, and desire. This is the quiet power that separates leaders from followers, victors from victims, the untouchable from the controlled. The first two games taught you to see the illusion of choice and the distortion of reality. The third game teaches you to see through the manipulation of your own feelings. Together, these three form a foundation for understanding the hidden forces that shape human behavior.
The next mind game is about perception at the social level. It affects how people see you and how much influence you have in their lives. The fourth mind game is called social calibration, and it reveals how the world manipulates status, reputation, and influence to control behavior without anyone ever noticing. Game number 4, social calibration. The fourth mind game is subtle, yet its effects are far-reaching. It is called social calibration. This is the art of controlling how you are seen, how others respond to you, and ultimately how much influence you hold in the networks that matter. Unlike emotional hijacking, which targets your inner state, social calibration targets your external perception. From the moment you enter a room, from the first email you send, from the way you dress or speak, every signal you give communicates something, and the world constantly teaches people to interpret those signals in predictable ways. Social calibration exploits these interpretations. It sets standards, creates hierarchies, and encourages conformity, all while disguising it as normal behavior. Think about social media. Likes, follows, comments, they are not just engagement metrics, they are invisible signals of social value. People adjust their behavior to fit these signals, often unconsciously. The world shapes what you post, what you share, what you celebrate, and even what you hide, using the subtle power of perceived status and approval. In workplaces, social calibration dictates promotions, influence, and reputation. People are judged less by their skills and more by how well they navigate social expectations. Those who understand this game manipulate appearances strategically. They speak at the right moments, stay silent at others, and manage relationships as carefully as chess pieces. The danger lies in the unconscious. Most people follow social cues automatically, thinking they are being authentic. But authenticity does not protect you when everyone else is calibrated to the same invisible rules. The result is predictable behavior, herd mentality, and control.
To master social calibration, start by observing the rules without immediately following them. Watch how people react to certain behaviors, words, or gestures. Notice what earns respect, what invites criticism, and what is ignored. Awareness is your first tool. Second, decide intentionally how you want to be perceived. Influence is a currency, and perception is the exchange rate. You can choose to appear confident, calm, and reliable, or reactive, anxious, and indecisive. Small shifts in behavior can change how others respond to you, giving you strategic advantage in negotiations, relationships, and leadership. Third, create leverage through scarcity and presence. The most powerful individuals are not always the loudest or most visible. They are the ones whose absence is noticed, whose words carry weight because they are rare, and whose actions are deliberate. Social calibration is not manipulation in its crude form. It is strategic alignment with how human behavior naturally interprets signals. History provides clear examples. Napoleon carefully cultivated his image as both approachable and formidable, knowing that perception would magnify his influence. Modern leaders, entrepreneurs, and even influencers employ the same tactics, often without conscious thought. They understand that social value is a force multiplier. In everyday life, social calibration explains why certain individuals rise effortlessly, while others struggle despite equal ability. Influence is not granted by skill alone. It is granted by perception. The world rewards those who can navigate it with awareness, patience, and intentionality. Those who master this game understand that every interaction is a test, and every observation is data. They do not waste energy trying to convince everyone. They focus on the networks that matter, calibrating their actions to maximize influence and minimize vulnerability. The first three mind games focused on internal control: your choices, your perception of reality, your emotions. Social calibration expands the battlefield to the social sphere. It shows that the world does not just act on you, it acts through others. By controlling perception and aligning yourself strategically, you gain power that others cannot even see coming. The next mind game targets time itself. It shows how the world manipulates your attention, your priorities, and even your memory. Mind game number 5 is called temporal manipulation, and it will reveal how your sense of urgency and delay is constantly being controlled without your awareness. Game number 5, temporal manipulation. The fifth mind game is one of the most insidious because it controls something you can never get back: time. Temporal manipulation is the art of influencing how you perceive urgency, how you allocate attention, and how you prioritize decisions. When the world controls your sense of time, it controls your life. From the headlines you read, to the notifications on your phone, to the deadlines imposed by work or social expectations, your attention is constantly being pulled in multiple directions. Each distraction, each demand, each urgent message is designed to fragment your focus. You think you are busy, but in reality, your time and energy are being channeled to serve someone else's agenda. Consider advertising. Limited time offers, countdowns, and flash sales create artificial urgency. They exploit your fear of missing out, tricking you into decisions you might not otherwise make. Your perception of scarcity and timing is being manipulated, making you act impulsively instead of strategically. Even in your personal life, temporal manipulation is present. Social obligations, unplanned crises, and constant notifications make you feel like you are always behind. The result is stress, fatigue, and a reactive mindset. You are living in the moment dictated by others rather than controlling your own schedule and priorities. To defend yourself, start with awareness. Notice where your attention is being pulled and ask yourself, is this urgent or does it only feel urgent? Is this task serving my long-term goals or someone else's immediate agenda? Most people cannot differentiate between true urgency and engineered urgency, and that is how they are controlled. Second, regain control through intentional scheduling. Protect your time like a fortress. Allocate blocks for deep work, for reflection, and for activities that truly matter. Every minute spent reacting to someone else's timeline is a minute of your life surrendered. Third, master delay strategically. There is power in waiting. The strongest people do not react impulsively to every stimulus. They observe, analyze, and act at the optimal moment. Patience is not passivity, it is leverage. By controlling when you respond,
you gain influence over events that others let dictate them. History shows this clearly. Great generals did not charge blindly. They timed their moves for maximum effect. Entrepreneurs wait for the right market conditions. Leaders delay announcements or decisions until the timing aligns perfectly with their advantage. Timing is a silent weapon, and the unaware are always disarmed. The world uses temporal manipulation to fragment your focus, amplify stress, and enforce reactive living. But when you master it, you reclaim control over your day, your decisions, and ultimately your destiny. You are no longer a passenger on the train of life. You are the conductor. The first 4 mind games taught you about choice, perception, emotion, and social influence. Temporal manipulation adds a new layer, control over when and how you act. Together, they form a framework for understanding the hidden forces that shape your life. The next mind game exposes one of the most powerful levers of influence, scarcity and desire. Mind game number 6 is called value engineering, and it will reveal how the world manipulates what you want, why you want it, and how much you are willing to give to get it. Game number 6, value engineering. The 6th mind game is the engine that drives modern society. It is called value engineering, the manipulation of what people believe is valuable, desirable, or worth pursuing. This game doesn't just influence what you buy, it defines what you chase, what you sacrifice for, and even what you think gives your life meaning. From the moment you are born, the world begins assigning values for you. It tells you what success looks like, what beauty means, what happiness should feel like. Every advertisement, every influencer, every story you hear reinforces these definitions. You are told what to want, and when everyone around you wants the same things, you stop questioning why. Value engineering turns perception into currency. The price of gold, the trend of a brand, the status of a career, none of these are fixed truths. They are agreements created by collective belief, and belief can be engineered. When millions agree that something has value, it becomes powerful, even if that value was manufactured. The cleverness of this game lies in its simplicity. You don't need to be forced to follow the system. You volunteer because you think it will bring fulfillment. You study, work, spend, and struggle for ideals that were implanted into your mind long before you chose them. You don't question the ladder you're climbing, only how fast you're moving up. Look around you. Why does a simple logo on a piece of fabric cost more than a week's wages? Why does a digital image sell for millions while the artist who made it starves? Why does attention rather than truth define influence? Because value is perception, and perception is engineered. In ancient times, kings used rare metals and precious stones to project authority. In modern times, corporations use scarcity, branding, and emotional storytelling to achieve the same control. The tools have changed, but the psychology is the same. Define what people crave, then control its supply. Even relationships are shaped by this game. People assign value based on popularity, wealth, or appearance, all social currencies created by design. This turns human connection into a transaction. The world convinces you to measure yourself by external standards, so you never feel content, because dissatisfaction keeps the system alive. To break free from value engineering, first understand that value is subjective. What the world worships today, it forgets tomorrow. Fame fades, trends die, wealth shifts. Real value lies in things that cannot be manipulated: knowledge, discipline, integrity, and self-respect. When you build your life around internal values, the external ones lose power over you. Second, redefine success in your own terms.
Most people chase goals they don't truly want. They just want the validation that comes with achieving them. Ask yourself, if no one could see my achievements, would I still want this? If the answer is no, it's not your value, it's the world's programming. Third, use the system to your advantage. Learn how value is created and become a creator of it, not just a consumer. The world runs on perceived scarcity. Be the one who generates demand, not the one who chases it. When you understand how value works, you can build influence, wealth, and respect without becoming a slave to them. History's most powerful minds mastered this game. Steve Jobs didn't sell technology, he sold identity. Luxury brands don't sell products, they sell belonging. Politicians don't sell policies, they sell hope, fear, or pride. The common thread is this: value is never about the object, it's about the emotion attached to it. When you understand that truth, you become untouchable. You stop chasing illusions and start creating meaning. You stop measuring yourself by comparisons and start designing your own scale. The world loses control over you because you no longer play its game. You redefine it.
The first 5 mind games taught you how control is built through choice, perception, emotion, society, and time. Value engineering shows you how control is maintained by defining what everyone believes is worth living for. But there is one final game, the deepest and most dangerous of all. It doesn't target your mind, your time, or your perception. It targets your identity, who you believe you are. Mind game number 7, identity programming, the final layer of control, the ultimate illusion. The 7th and final mind game is the most profound and the most dangerous. It is called identity programming. This game doesn't manipulate what you do, or what you want, or how you feel. It manipulates who you believe you are. From childhood, society, family, media, and culture begin shaping your identity. You are told who to be, what to believe, and how to act. You are this kind of person, they say. You belong here. You should think like this. You must value these things. And over time, you internalize it. You live your life following a script written by forces outside yourself. Identity programming is subtle. It doesn't require force. It requires repetition, reinforcement, and subtle social pressure. It convinces you that the limitations you feel are your own, that the doubts in your mind are natural, that the rules you follow are inevitable. And once you accept them, you act predictably, a puppet without strings, or worse, a puppet who doesn't realize they are being controlled. History shows the devastating power of this game. Entire populations have been guided to obey, to fear, to sacrifice, and to follow because they were convinced of who they were supposed to be. Leaders, ideologies, and institutions thrive on identity programming. The world doesn't need to tell you what to do if it can tell you who you are. To break free, you must first become aware. Observe the narratives you've been taught. Ask yourself, which beliefs are truly yours? Which are borrowed? Which limitations are real and which are imposed? Awareness is the first step toward freedom. Second, take control of your self-definition. Define your values, your goals, and your principles on your own terms. Build your identity consciously, not reactively. Decide who you want to be, not who the world says you must be. This is not easy because the pressure to conform is constant, but it is necessary. Third, act consistently with your chosen identity. Every thought, every decision, every habit is a reinforcement of who you are. Powerful people do not merely respond to circumstance. They embody a deliberate identity that guides every action.
Their lives are a reflection of intentional self-definition, not random reaction.
When you master identity programming, you reclaim ultimate freedom. No external force can dictate your choices, manipulate your desires, or control your destiny. You become untouchable because your power comes from the inside. You are no longer a product of the world's games. You are the player who decides the rules. The 7 mind games, the illusion of choice, distorted reality, emotional hijacking, social calibration, temporal manipulation, value engineering, and identity programming form a hidden architecture of control. Most people live their entire lives unaware that they are being played. But those who understand these forces gain freedom, power, and clarity. This knowledge is not about domination or cruelty. It is about self-mastery. It is about seeing the invisible strings, understanding the forces at play, and stepping into your life intentionally. The world may be designed to manipulate, but it cannot manipulate you if you understand the game. Now the question is simple. Will you remain a pawn, or will you become the master of your own mind? The choice is yours.
Subscribe to Unlock Deeper Mind for more powerful mind and success insights every week.